Hey there, I'm Taylor, and I'm the owner of Radiate Prints and the host of the Shop Talk with Radiate podcast. Today on the podcast, I have on Ellen Brabo. She's the owner of the Ell Hotel, the only female veteran-owned boutique hotel in the Carolinas. Ellen is a transplant to Washington, NC, but she's quickly made it her home. And in our conversation, we talk about how she transitioned from being a captain in the Army to working in corporate America and then eventually starting her own business. We talk about what it's like to renovate an old home, to transition as a veteran, and even her family moving to Little Washington to help her through the whole process. And there's just kind of an overarching theme of community throughout Ellen's life. And as Americans, we think about it so much, but a lot of times we don't think about the transition that happens when they leave the service and come into a career, whether they're owning their own business or working at a job in the workforce. We don't think a lot about it. And Ellen talks about this really important topic. And I think it's very important for business owners and other people in the community to know how to support your friends or your family members who are veterans who are making that big transition. I appreciate Ellen's compassion and her empathy for it. I think you guys are really going to enjoy this episode. Let's go ahead and tune in.
My dad was in the Army. He served for 26 years. He enlisted. He actually dropped out of high school and then enlisted in the military between what would have been his junior and senior year and did basic training at 17. And then he went back and finished his high school diploma and was in the National Guard. And then he went active duty in 1993, I think right after I was born.
Oh, wow. Okay. And did that inspire you to also go into the military?
You know, you think it would. And it's funny because my grandfather was he was in the Navy. I think I'm like a third or fourth generation service member.
Wow.
But my whole life growing up, I was like, there's no way I am going in the military. It's never going to happen. I'm not going to do that. And I think a large part of that was the sacrifice. My dad, he deployed after 9/11 to Iraq. So we didn't have him for that period of time. And then he worked for the White House Communications Agency. So he traveled a lot under the Obama and the Bush administrations. And so he was just never home.
Yeah.
And there's a huge sacrifice that I have a different appreciation for as an adult. But as a child, it's just the military or the Army has taken daddy away.
Right.
And why would I want to do that job and then never be at home? But then the reality sets in as a high school student, and my parents were very adamant that I was going to go to college because that was what their expectation was of me. They both had worked really hard to earn their degrees as adults. My mom got her associate's degree when I was in high school. My dad, did night school to earn his bachelor's degree. I remember being at his graduation. And so for them, it was, you're going to go to college, but you have to find a way to afford it yourself because it wasn't something they were in the financial position to do for me. And so there you go. Now we're joining the military. And so, my dad was such a trooper because he was, he was like, oh, well, maybe you go to the Air Force, go to the Air Force Academy. I applied for the cadet program that the Air Force Academy has, and I literally never heard back.
Oh, wow.
Didn't get a yes, didn't get a no, just nothing. And the girl that sat behind me in AP calculus, she applied the same time I applied, and she heard back, and she went, and she had a great time. And she's in the military now as well, ironically enough. But I attended some West Point briefings that my dad took me to, applied to West Point, really thought that that's where I was going to go, had 2 nominations. But the Lord had a different plan, and I needed a medical waiver. And ironically, my medical waiver came in literally one day after the deadline.
Oh, wow.
And rightfully so, West Point was not going to negotiate on that. And so I submitted an application for Army ROTC. And I got a full tuition scholarship to SUNY Brockport. And so weird because SUNY Brockport is in Western New York, and I went to high school in Northern Virginia. I had never been to SUNY Brockport when I applied. I got an email that should have probably found its way to a spam folder, but it didn't. Good old Major Dan Fletcher found his way into my inbox. And we went up, we toured the campus, and to make a long story short, the rest is history. Did 4 years at SUNY Brockport, and unfortunately, but fortunately, I learned a lot about what it means to be not a good leader during my time at SUNY Brockport. And there were some significant challenges that our program had to overcome. And, you never want to see your program on the headline of Duffel blog. And for those in the military, they'll understand. But it was really important lessons. And that having my dad, he's my greatest mentor, having his experience to lean on. He didn't retire until I was in college. He was my first salute. Those sorts of things is I could call him and have a safe space to be frustrated.
Yeah.
But to recognize that what I was feeling was not good leadership was correct. And my dad would just say, write it down and remember like what you don't want to be as a leader is just as important as knowing what you do want to be as a leader. And so I commissioned in 2015 into the United States Army as a signal officer. But again, the Lord always has a different plan, and we can plan all day long, and that's not necessarily what's going to come to be. And so my background when I was in college, I had thought about applying to school to be a photojournalism major. But I was like, oh, well, why would I want to do something I love as my full-time job? Because I'm probably going to hate it. And then I'm not going to find this thing that I love fun anymore.
Yeah.
So I was pre-law undergrad, political science was my major. And I worked at the local newspaper on campus. I was a sports photographer, a sports editor, copy editor, a couple different jobs, advertising manager, developing and designing advertisements. And I was the president of the marketing club.
Okay.
So this very like creative side of me was what I was using in every other extracurricular activity that I could find and occupation. And so when I got into the Army, I got through my signal training, I got to my first unit, and my executive officer for our battalion, his sentiment to me was, well, Facebook is on the computer. You're a signal officer. You manage the computers. So you're going to also manage the Facebook page. And I jokingly at the time was like, I'm going to get so good at this. This is going to be my full-time job. Yeah, okay, LT. Like, what are you talking about? He didn't know my resume. And so giving me space and time in my day-to-day work life to go take pictures and document training exercises and get to talk to the soldiers and make Facebook posts, that storytelling side of me really got to shine. And within a couple of months, I had the very fortunate opportunity of being hired as the Division Public Affairs Officer.
Cool.
And that is where I'm like, yes, I was devastated. I was going to be a signal officer. I was like, this is not what I want to do. I'm not an IT person. But I think it's really making sure that you continue to cultivate those natural abilities, those gifts inside of you. Because you never know where the Lord's going to put you and where he's going to use you.
Yeah. So before we move on, what exactly was a signal officer, and what would you have been doing compared to what you ended up doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So for like a signal officer, you're thinking more like your IT support desk. And so for those first couple of months, I was overseeing the office where if your phone stops working or your computer stops working or we need to push out a program update, that's something that would have fallen to my office that I was working in, and the soldiers that were there and far more equipped to be managing any of that than I was. But I learned a lot. It just was not my strengths. And being able to then transition over in public affairs, being able to work with a team where we're documenting things. So the photographs, we're writing stories, we're escorting media like CNN and Yahoo News and things like that. Working with the media partners in host countries, because I spent my entire military career overseas.
Okay.
So being able to work with both your partner service branches, like working with the Marine Corps and the Air Force, but then also working with like the host nation countries like South Korea, Germany, Poland, and things like that. And just be able to tell the soldier's story, I think is the simplest way to put it, so that everything that our men and women abroad are doing, that everyone back home can see. So that's not done in vain.
I was going to say, I think usually when you hear about someone going into the military, you have kind of a picture as a civilian of like what they're doing. And I don't think most people picture that you're running the Facebook and that you're coordinating with the media and like making sure the stories get told. And it's cool because, I mean, we get to see the tail end of it, I guess, of the work that you're doing, like on the news or on social media to see. And it's really cool. But when you said you served abroad, what countries were you in?
So my first assignment was in South Korea. And then from there, I transitioned over to Germany. I spent some forward time in Poland working with a NATO assignment. But we also did training exercises in the country of Georgia, Romania, Lithuania. So it was a never ending training cycle is how it feels being in the European rotation. But after that, I transitioned out during COVID, summer 2020.
Okay, so that's when you left military.
I did, yes. Okay. Yep. I transitioned out at the rank of captain, and for myself, I just felt like I had reached a point where I was trying to fit a square into a circle. I had the best job in the Army. I never had a bad day in the military, which I think sounds insane to a lot of people. But I had such a special job, and I met so many incredible people, and being able to document and show what the men and women are doing abroad was it was the once in a lifetime experience, especially getting to see Europe through that experience as well. Cool. But the Army at the time, I think some of it has transitioned, but it's not quite still where I think it should be. You cannot commission as a public affairs officer. And so while I was doing public affairs, officially on paper, I was still a signal officer.
Okay.
And so the expectation was, well, now you're a captain, you've been doing this job, but you need to go to your signal captain's career course. You could apply to transfer, but there's still no guarantees.
Right.
It's needs of the Army. And as a signal officer, then there could have been an expectation for me to go on and be leading an IT office again, be an S6 or be a commander in a signal unit. And I felt like I had such a clear understanding of what I was loving doing, and that ironic, childish thought of doing something you love every day suddenly not being fun anymore, had a completely different appreciation for that. Yeah. And so I recognized that there were opportunities where I could continue to support the warfighter, continue to work in a communications role, but not need to wear the uniform every day anymore. And so it was not a decision I made lightly, but it was the decision that was best for me.
Okay. So what did you do?
So I did what every good veteran does, and I took a job as a government contractor. Woo! No, I mean, I had such a cool job. After I got out of the Army, I transitioned back to the DC area, being, I say not necessarily from the Northern Virginia area, but did a lot of internships in the summer in DC, graduated from high school in Northern Virginia. And so that felt like going home.
Yeah.
And when I accepted my job and was moving back to the DC area, my dad and my bonus mom were in that area.
Okay. That's another bonus.
Yeah. But, COVID, it really changed a lot of things. So by the time I actually moved into my apartment, they were no longer living there.
Oh, gosh.
Because they were both fully remote, and opportunities presented themselves to not need to be in that rat race at the time. And so I took a job as the strategic communications manager for what would have been at the time the Office of Modernization, but is now the Office of the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Critical Technologies.
Okay.
And so essentially that office oversees any of the advancement of the technological areas, thinking about like 5G, future G, hypersonic weapons, autonomous systems, artificial intelligence. Those are all outlined in the National Defense Authorization Act. And so those are ever changing, but there are some that, continue to be a priority of how we're going to move them from a future technology to a current technology. And so I think the best example of that is when I took the role as the strategic communications manager, we were working on 5G. Well, by the time I left at the end of 2023, we've already transitioned to future G, because that's something we've solved for all intents and purposes. It's an ongoing technology for advancement. Yeah. And so it was a completely new way to see how to support the warfighter, because working at the higher level of the Department of Defense, you're working on the future technology that's going to support the on-the-ground soldier at a later date. And so having been in the 2nd Cavalry Regiment in Germany, where we're receiving some of the most state-of-the-art weapon systems, the new Strikers and things like that development for new systems has to start somewhere. Yeah. And so in my role with working as a strategic communications manager at DoD, well, now we're working with university partnerships. Now we're working with industry partnerships. And so supporting that element and that role of how do we create innovative opportunities, but then how do we communicate that both to our industry partners, our educational partners. It wasn't so much that exterior facing communications the way that being a public affairs officer in the Army at the unit level had been.
More internal, I guess.
More internal, more making sure that you're communicating with all those key stakeholders, what the opportunities are and how those partnerships can take shape.
Cool. Well, it's cool to see how you were able to go from like a public facing role to an internal facing role. How did that transition go, I guess, from like when you're in work mode and you're thinking about the general public or who your audience was there compared to who your audience was at your contract job?
It was a challenge, especially during COVID. And then I was the first strategic communications manager for that office. Yeah. And we were fully remote during COVID when I was onboarded.
A lot of transition.
And it wasn't like I was coming in and I was the new Tina. And
this is what
we
Tina
know
does.
what you do. Yeah, and we know to call Tina for this, this, and this. It was like, okay, well, I don't know what you do. I don't know who you are. I don't know what to ask of you, but you should figure out what your job is. And so having always had a very external facing public affairs type role, relearning that required a lot of mentorship, a lot of understanding, and a lot of communication with the other entities that were already in existence, like the other strategic communications offices at higher levels and lower levels across DoD. And so thankfully their infrastructure was there and, got my feet under me. But I think the thing I missed the most, and a lot of it probably has to do with I was fully remote the entire time that I had the job. It took a long time for DoD to get back to work in person. And so for myself, I went from, interacting with a soldier on a daily basis and being out in the field and attending live fire training exercises and having that culture at work of being part of a team, to then being, in my closet office in my 600 square foot apartment in DC.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, you have a job. Yeah, everything should be good.
On paper, it looks good.
On paper, it looks good, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm very grateful for the experience that I had, but it made transition very hard. It was very isolating to be in a fully remote with no end in sight, working from home all day, and then not having a work culture where other people on the staff had already known each other in person and then transitioned to being remote versus, well, nobody knows what I'm supposed to be doing. Nobody knows who I am.
Yeah.
And then we're all supposed to stay home and mask up. And so it just was a very isolating transition experience, which had its own challenges.
And I know that's something that you're passionate about in general with like veterans transitioning from serving their country to workforce. So I guess, does your experience play a role in that passion?
It does. It absolutely does. I think I had a commander say it really well when I was in the service. I didn't have an understanding of it at the time. But those in the service can't help you transition out of the service because they've never transitioned themselves. And so on paper and in theory, we can say that you need to check these 3 boxes and everything's going to be good. You need to have a job. You need to have somewhere to live. You need to be accepted to a college program. And the military has a transition assistance program, but it really puts you into 3 boxes. You're either going to be a blue collar worker, you're going to go to college, or you're going to be an entrepreneur. Well, where's the space for someone who wants to go to corporate America? Where's the space for someone who wants to become a lawyer, who wants to become a doctor? And so for at least, I know that there's significant challenges on the enlisted side, but I think that also couples a lot of your senior non-commissioned officers and your officers already have college degrees, and many already have master's degrees when they're coming out of the service.
Right.
And so when you look at someone, I can't imagine and fathom and wrap my mind around those like my father who have done 26 years. It is since they were 17 years old, you do 20 years or more. It's all you've ever done. And then to just assume that because you were enlisted that you wouldn't have had a degree. Well, that you've really limited your options on what transition can look like and how the military is defining success at that. And so for myself, I did the Boots to Business program. It was a very significant part of what led me to where I am now, but it didn't prepare me for having a corporate type job, of understanding how to rebuild community, because that's really at the end of the day, the essence of the struggle that the veteran community feels is I woke up every morning with a purpose, with a routine, with a system, and with a team, with a community around me. And that is something I never served in the U.S., so I can only assume that it would be similar. But overseas, your family readiness groups, your military community, I mean, you're spending your holidays away from your family together. And that's a bond that is irreplaceable. And then suddenly you're on the outside looking in and you're starting anew. And sometimes, for a lot of us, you're starting new in an entirely new place. Maybe you don't have a home to go back to. I mean, for me, I didn't. My parents got divorced when I was stationed in South Korea. There was no going back to where I grew up, or there was no going home. And so you're reestablishing what life looks like. What is that new routine? But how do you find community? And so for myself, that was something I really struggled with. And I will offer it caught me by surprise. I had a job. I had a house. I went back to an area where I had friends. Yeah. And maybe without COVID, some of that would have looked a little different. But like I said, I didn't get out of the military going, I hate this. I'm so done with this. And I think like many, you get out and you miss it. And you find yourself, you're not part of that camaraderie the same way anymore. Yeah. And so for myself, I really struggled, and I don't think I really realized how much I was struggling until I went to visit my dad and my bonus mom over the Christmas holiday, that just 6 months after I transitioned. And statistically, you are your most vulnerable in those first 12 months. And I went home for Christmas, and my sister and her fiance and her baby came, and Christmas was great. And then it was like, now I have to go home back to my 600 square foot apartment all by myself and back to work on Monday. And I had a complete breakdown. I was like, I can't go home. Like, I don't know what happens to me mentally. I don't know what happens next. And thankfully for myself, I don't know how people do it that don't have others in their lives who have not also experienced that transition. So my dad had retired after my sophomore year of college, and my bonus mom, she had been in the military as well herself and transitioned out as a captain. So they understood that when I was like, I can't go home, I don't know, I'm not okay. They understood. And they understood in a deeper way than just being like, yeah, okay, got it. Like they were like, nope. They put their arms around me. They brought me in, and they took me to Florida with them for a month. And we just started building back one step at a time. And what do those resources look like? And so finding, the Cohen Clinic is a great one for the military community because it's 16 weeks of objective-based counseling free of charge for service members and their families. So like when a soldier transitions, I mean, I didn't have a spouse, I didn't have kids, but that whole family transitions. And so that is a change for everyone. And so having resources like the Cohen Clinic is really important. Stop Soldier Suicide is one that I've become a strong advocate for because they will help you beyond just the counseling. Like if you need it to be connected to a resource because homelessness is such a prevalent problem in the veteran community. If it's a difference between you making your next rent check, if that provides you more stability in this transition, they will help you find those resources. And so one of the biggest things they talk about is you need to meet the service member, the veteran, on the side of the mountain before they're on the edge of the cliff. And I think that's a really powerful visual of where we need to be intervening to assist veterans in that first 12, 24-month transition.
Yeah. So it sounds like your parents, or your dad and your bonus mom, like really played a pivotal role in like helping you, I guess, on the mountain before you got to the cliff. I don't know if you want to use that analogy, but what would you say to maybe they know someone who's a veteran who's transitioned, or anyone who's listening who has a family member or a friend who's a veteran that recently transitioned? What is something that someone who's in their community who maybe doesn't understand, like a civilian doesn't, we don't know. We can empathize as much as we can, but what could we do to help?
I would offer be educated on resources that are available. And check in with people because on paper, everything should be okay. And for a lot of instances, but check in with them, connect with other military veterans if you are the veteran yourself, because sometimes it's just having that relatability of someone else that can say at a deeper level, yep, that sucks. I know what you're talking about. But when you're looking to support the veteran around you, community is so important in helping someone find purpose. And maybe some people will find that purpose in their job. Maybe some people will find that purpose in their community. For me, I've found it in my community and in being an entrepreneur, and that took time to get there. And so I think on a bigger scale, we need transformational change in how we transition service members into civilian life. I don't have all the answers to that. My dad and some other partners and I have been striving towards establishing what those programs could look like. But those things take time. They don't happen overnight. So check on them. Check on the veterans in your life. Check on those who are 12 months, 24 months out from transition, because I think the best thing you can do is try to help the next person that comes along after you, because like I said, you can't help someone transition if you've never transitioned yourself.
Right. Anyone can see a problem, especially if you've experienced it. You can say, oh, that was a problem, like with your transition. But I think it's really cool that not only are you seeing the problem, but you're trying to find ways to help it so that the next person doesn't have to go through what you went through. And I think that's really cool. And I appreciate you sharing with it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's a small piece of a very big puzzle. I'm very grateful for the nonprofits and the entities that are out there helping solve the problem for sure.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this episode. I wanted to pop in and just let you know that Radiate Prints, the business that hosts this podcast, I'm the owner. We create custom apparel that people love to wear. So if you need t-shirts, polos, hats, something for your business, something for your family reunion, or anything in between, even if it's a sports team for your little league, we're here to help. Send us a DM on Instagram or social media, shoot us an email, and chances are you're probably going to be talking to me or someone on my team, and we would love to help you create apparel for it. I look forward to hearing from you, and let's get back to this episode. I guess to pick back up, you're in corporate America, but you know, the transition is kind of tough. What does life look like after that as you're kind of going through?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I had touched on a little earlier that the Boots to Business program really led me towards where I'm at now.
Okay.
And so through that Boots to Business program, you build a business plan for a fake business that you're going to create.
Okay.
And for some people, they're real businesses. Like people have ideas that they've really been gnawing on and thinking about and being inspired by. But for myself, I just needed to check a box. But COVID was happening and I had a lot of friends who had Airbnbs already booked on the follow-on end after leaving Germany. Okay. And so a lot of the time service members, I moved from Korea to Germany and I didn't get my belongings from Korea. I moved in July and my belongings didn't show up until November.
Oh my gosh.
And that's Korea to Germany. And so Germany to the US can be a very similar experience for people where you're without your belongings. So you book an Airbnb, you want a sense of normalcy, you want a furnished space, especially if you have kids.
Yeah.
It can take some time to get housing, get your belongings, all those sorts of things. Well, Airbnb hosts had really, really strict cancellation policies during COVID. And so military families that were overseas with reservations back domestically lost tens of thousands of dollars. Because there was just a lack of empathy. And I get that we were all going through a very uncertain time. But a military family, when our lives change, there's paperwork to document that. If we're told we can't go somewhere, if we have orders to go somewhere, there's all paperwork to back that up. And those types of things could have been very easily verified. Yeah. So I set out, create an Airbnb for military families in transition. That's what I built this little business plan around in that program. But I had a great mentor in that program, the instructor for the class. And in talking with him, it's like, okay, well, that's really easy when it's not your mortgage. Yeah. So how are you going to better inform your business plan? Oh, look at Ellen. I'm going to own an Airbnb. What better way to know what that could look like than to pursue the business side? Yeah. And so I, again, will continue to stand by. The Lord always has a better plan. It's just sometimes we don't see it yet. Yeah. And so my dad and my bonus mom had transitioned out of the D.C. area, and they were living in Eastern Ohio. And I was obviously spending a lot of time up there during transition and looked at a property out there in Ohio that I was like, okay, this could be a really cool Airbnb. Excuse me, but it wasn't really the right fit at the time. And I was like, okay, like that's not the one. Well, then this incredible historic schoolhouse in downtown Warren, Ohio came on the market for sale. And it was bid out for demolition and it had like asbestos. It was a really big undertaking. But I remember New Year's Eve going and touring the property with my dad and being like, oh my gosh, could you see the vision? Like this could actually be more like a boutique hotel and you could have a spa, and you could have a conference room, and like this could be the reception. And crazy me actually made an offer on this insane project that like I have no experience and no right to take. And my offer was not accepted, and that was a very good thing. Okay. But through that process, I met a real estate attorney and got some insight and some perspective from her on questions I needed to be asking. Learn, and the vision just continued to evolve. And so what I had thought was going to be, I was going to own this little house over here, be an Airbnb. Now I have this full-fledged vision. I've got a business logo for the Ell Hotel. And now I'm headed to, in February, a couple months later, I'm now headed to Texas to visit some friends from the military. And I'm like, yeah, like I made an offer. I've got this idea. I think I want to do something like a little bit bigger than just an Airbnb. Oh, well, the house like a block away from me has been on the market for like 18 months. No one's lived there for 12 years. We should go tour. And I'm like, well, I have a pre-approval. Let's go look at it. Walk in. It's this beautiful historic home. In Texas. Suburb of Dallas. Like, wow, this would be a cool bed and breakfast. And growing up, I'll offer just as a side, my grandparents lived in a home on the National Registry of Historic Places. Cool. It was an old Victorian home. And my sister and I growing up had this vision of turning it into a bed and breakfast. Okay. So childhood dream come true, right? I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, needs a lot of work. Start talking to the city planning office. They're like, oh, well, we're not quite there. Like you'd have to have everything rezoned. I'm like, oh, I don't know. They're like, but we'd love to work with you. Okay. I'm going to think about it. Finish my week visiting my friend, get back on the plane, get home. And I'm like, man, that would be such a cool place. Let me pull up the Zillow and look at this again. Yeah. Under contract. This house has sat on the market for 18 months with no offers. I tour it, and 5 days later, it's under contract. If I could explain the emotion that overcame me, it caught me by surprise. I felt like I had hesitated. I hadn't followed my intuition, and I was gutted. I was like, oh my gosh, I've messed up. I've ruined my chances. This is over. Like 3 strikes, you're out. And I messaged the realtor and I was like, if anything changes, let's just go ahead and have my contract with my offer prepared. Like, obviously I want this more than I even realized. Contract falls through, my offer goes in, and we're waiting and we're waiting and we're waiting. And I'm like, don't they have like an ethical obligation to say yes or no within a certain amount of time? And she's like, they've acknowledged they received your offer, but no response. Okay. And so a girlfriend from my childhood, we've known each other since 8th grade. She came over, she was for lunch, and we're sitting out there on the balcony of my apartment in DC. And I'm like, I think the Lord is trying to tell me that I am trying to leave too easily. Maybe I should be more rooted. Maybe I'm trying to too hastily make an exit and make a change. Maybe I've heard this wrong. Maybe I'm trying to have too much control. And she was like, I don't know. 5 a.m. the next morning, this girl changed my life because she sent me a Facebook post from Historical Homes of America. And she's like, I think this is your house.
So you found Washington, North Carolina on a Facebook post?
On a Facebook post on Historical Homes of America. And if that is not a Facebook group that people are familiar with, I need you to understand that I'm on this group because A, the houses are so cheap. You're going, well, where's the closest civilization? Yeah. Oh, it's 4 hours away.
That's why it's on here.
Or they're so expensive. And you're like, well, wouldn't it be nice to own a chateau in France in some lifetime? And
so it's like 2 ends of the spectrum.
There's 2 ends of the spectrum. Yeah. You never see a house on there, at least at the time. Maybe I don't follow it as closely now, but at the time you never saw anything in there that you were like, yeah, I've got a pre-approval in that price range.
Yeah.
Oh, that actually would be cool. That makes sense. I should go look at that. No. And so it was incredible. And the Holy Spirit led her, the Holy Spirit led me. My parents had no hesitation when I called and was like, hey, you want to go look at this house in North Carolina? They're like, heck yeah, we do. And that they're always up for an adventure. Yeah. And so I hopped in the car, came down from Ohio, grabbed me, and we headed down. And I mean, in the most Washington style, if you haven't been to Washington, North Carolina, but for those who have, this is the epitome. Our very first meal was brunch at Parlay, which was on Water Street, overlooking the waterfront. We sat outside. Sonny Fields is sitting there playing his guitar. I couldn't sum up Washington better if I tried.
Than that.
That right there paints a picture for plenty of people, I'm sure. But we went over to the property, and mind you, at this point, I've looked at 3 other places. And from the moment we walked in the front door, I just felt it in my bones.
Yeah.
I was like, this is it. I don't know why. I don't know how. I don't have the answers. I have no experience in hospitality. Never owned a bed and breakfast. This is it. This is what is going to take shape as the Ell Hotel. And we stood out there in the yard, the beautiful gardens in the front of the property. And my parents and I, we stood there and we prayed over the place and prayed over the home and prayed over the sellers and what that would look like and what my offer should be. Mind you, I still have an active offer in Texas.
They haven't responded yet.
They hadn't responded yet. This all was happening like very quickly.
Oh my gosh.
And so, I mean, we're talking at this point, I think we're at like March 15th.
Okay.
And so I'd been at Texas the last week of February, 2021.
Okay.
And so, looked at first property, December of 2020, second property, New Year's Eve, 2020, third property, February, fourth.
Okay.
Yeah. Trying to move pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And so we went and talked with the realtor in the backyard. And my biggest question that I asked of her, I'm sure I asked others, but the only one that really stood out to me was, is this a place that values community over competition? And that's why community is such an important part of my story, because I had seen my parents through that military life transition to different bases in different locations, where being in small town America can be a huge divide of the been heres and the come heres.
Yep.
And as an adult, it's already hard enough to make friends. I don't want to fight an uphill battle if I'm not welcome here.
Yeah.
And so the realtor was like, no, we value community here. It is not about competition like that. Like, no, like you will find support. We want you here. And so I made my offer on Monday. So like Sunday, we're driving back to DC. My parents have work on Monday, so they got to get me dropped off. They've got to get home. And I texted the realtor in Texas and I was like, take my offer off the table. I found a property in North Carolina. Like, I haven't even put an offer in. And I'm like, take it off the table. And again, it's just everything worked out because, like, ironically enough, they got a full cash asking. And that, like, I guess maybe the Lord just needed me to make an offer over there to motivate someone else to do what they needed to do. But it worked out really well. Yeah. And Monday, I made my offer. I had to submit a video to the sellers to let them know like what my vision was for the space and introduce myself. I know they had multiple offers and I was not the highest offer. But I really, again, when everything is right and it's in this space, the hearts were at work there. I had to write a letter to further share more about me and my background and who I was. And so we looked at the property on Sunday and by Wednesday I was under contract.
Wow.
Yeah.
So third time's the charm?
Fourth time.
Yeah, that's
why I was like, 3 strikes, you're out. There's no way that I'm supposed to keep down this path. And I think it's just when you fully surrender yourself and just allow yourself to be at the Lord's will, that really shifted and changed things for me.
Yeah. So you said goodbye to Washington, D.C. and you moved to Little Washington?
Just about. Was doing the back and forth, the in-between dance for a couple of months. My lease didn't end until September. And obviously through this whole time, I still have no idea when we're going to be back to in-person work or if that's going to take place. It's because it's COVID. And so was like, you know what? We're just going to jump all in. I got rid of my lease in the DC area. My parents, who love me so much, sold their dream retirement home in Ohio the summer of 2021 and moved in with me.
In the house?
In the house.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Thankfully, the market was really hot and moving very quickly. House went on the market and within 24 hours, offer over asking. But yes, so they actually were full-time in Washington before I was.
Oh my gosh.
But by September of 2021, I was fully moved into the house, and my bonus mom has a background in flipping houses.
Oh, you still are renovating.
So we're renovating, working through projects. Unfortunately, I ended up with a contractor who abandoned the job. Ugh. And so we just navigated things a little differently. Yeah. And so what I had thought was going to be an October 2021 big grand opening turned into a Christmas open house to see the progress of the construction. Oh. As we still had massive holes. Like, I love it so much because if you look at any of the pictures, we had a professional opera singer. I'm going to knock this mic again. We had a professional opera singer come in and a professional pianist really trying to, elevate the experience. And
there's holes here, but there's some beautiful music.
My bonus mom went to Michael's and bought these massive rolls of red, silky looking fabric. And then she did curtain rods on the wall. So like when you see pictures from the event, there's these beautiful drapes on the walls. And I'm like, yeah, those are covering the massive holes in those walls because all of the plumbing and electric and all that needed to be dropped in for installing some bathrooms upstairs. And so we just worked with what we had. And grand opening was June 2022 for the Ell Hotel.
And so what was the response like from the community?
It was great. I have felt that what the realtor had said about community over competition, I have felt that every step of the way. It takes a village. It takes community. And Washington has gifted me the most beautiful community I could have ever asked for.
What are some markers of that community that really stand out to you as like, this is what makes it truly community over competition?
Well, I would say within the hospitality industry is the partnership. We all recognize that we're a different type of stay, and we all have our unique elements. Like, I'm pet friendly, but the other B&Bs in town are not. And so I'm kid friendly. Others are not. But we are always constantly sharing ideas, sharing guests, sharing wait lists, recommending and referring within that into that community, because we recognize that supporting one another is going to be integral to all of our success. And so I feel like I know you had Warren Allen on the podcast, and so him and his wife have been good friends of mine. And when they set up their Airbnbs, trying to, also help the next person that's coming along behind, hey, I learned this lesson, don't do this, or I learned this lesson, or this is a resource that was really integral, take it or leave it. Yeah. But I've felt the same reciprocated from other B&B owners who were already there before me. No one was like, oh, well, figure it out yourself, kid. Like, we don't want you here. It was like, oh, well, like, this has worked for me, or this is something that we do. that could be helpful to you. This is something we decided not to do because of these reasons and things like that. And so we all have our area in the market, but it is something that we're all working together towards because we recognize that we are all successful together.
Yeah. And I think you taking that first step forward and reaching out to people like Kat and Warren, who you know are coming along next, and being like, this is what I would do. I think that kind of starts that relationship of like, I'm here to help you. I'm not coming out and be like, oh, another person's opening up and that's more competition. It's like, no, I want to, when you thrive, we thrive. And
Absolutely.
When Jay Bastardo of Villa Verde in Greenville came on the podcast, he was like our first or second episode. He was talking about how like, when a new restaurant opens up in Greenville, most people are like, oh, are you, concerned about that? And he was saying, if all the other restaurants in Greenville close, I'm going to struggle too. Like we need each other. So I'm assuming the same is kind of for you.
Absolutely. I mean, you think about if someone is planning their wedding in Washington, I think that's a really simple example, right? Well, you need somewhere to put the bridal party. You need somewhere to put the groomsmen separate from the bridesmaids. You need somewhere the bride to get ready, the groom to get ready. Right. Well, where is grandma going to stay? Where's mom and dad going to stay? Where are all my friends from college going to stay? If you don't have choice and you don't have enough lodging accommodations for those types of events to take place, well, then they're going to take their wedding somewhere else. They're going to take the family reunion somewhere else. They're going to take the high school reunion somewhere else. So you need to have and you need to have different types of stays. So staying at the Ell Hotel with your dog and your 4-year-old isn't necessarily going to attract the same customer who wants that more high-end luxury experience with a full-service breakfast that you're going to get at the Elmwood.
Yep.
That's a different client. But grandma and grandpa might go stay at the Elmwood and the grandkids stay with me, and then they all enjoy their weekend in Washington celebrating whatever the special occasion might be. And so I think you have to have those choices, or we all lose out. So the same analogy with the restaurants, because if there's just me or there's just the Elmwood or whatever that looks like, well, those rooms fill up, and where do we put the rest of the people?
Right. So you guys opened in June of 2022. I'm hitting the mic now. You guys opened in June of 2022. What were your primary revenue streams to start? Like with your business plan, were you thinking like we're just like stays, but was it bed and breakfast? I guess what did that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. Coming in, 27-year-old Ellen, we're going to do full service, bed and breakfast. Even interviewed a cook. She came down, or like a chef. She came down from New York for a long weekend and things like that. And I was very ambitious and very eager. And I learned very quickly that guests have a lot of feedback. And feedback can be very helpful. I mean, especially as a new business owner, and it's a balance, right? You take things in, you make some changes, you modify some things. But learning how to thicken your skin to not all feedback is meant to be received is something that was really hard. It was
it's
really
your baby.
hard.
Your whole family moves to Washington with you. You put your blood, sweat, and tears into this, and now someone's giving you feedback that maybe.
And some people can't be pleased.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I was feeling like, that first year, I mean, we took our first booking in November of 2021. Like I was very much the first room's ready. Let's book it. We need to start generating revenue. And how do we do that? We rent a room. And so I didn't wait until everything was just absolutely perfect. And it was also like, okay, well, we got to see what do guests like, what do guests not like. And if I can do that with one room, it might save me some mistakes on a bigger scale. And so by June of 2022, when we opened, I only had 3 of our 5 rooms fully ready to go. And adding breakfast in time for getting rooms rented was just not realistic.
Yeah.
And it was, how do I generate income? Because all I'm doing is spending money at this point. I mean, we installed 2 bathrooms, we do foundation repairs, painting, furnishing. I mean, it's like a 6,000 square foot property.
Yeah, there's a lot to do.
There's a lot to do. And so the biggest thing is definitely the overnight accommodations as primary source of revenue. Okay. And for myself, I felt like, and I still am something I'm not sure in terms of adding breakfast, because everybody has an opinion about something and you can't please everybody.
Right.
And I don't know if I want to open myself up to that. It's just another element of feedback where some people will love it and some people will hate it. And how do I create that? Like, it's a skin. You have to, it's almost like an armor you have to put on, where you have to recognize that it's okay that not everybody's going to like something, but you still, as a human, emotionally are receiving that. And when you've set out to create something special that you've put your hours and your time into, when somebody is not satisfied with that, and things happen, but for all intents and purposes, you've done everything you can to create a positive experience. it's another avenue that I'm not sure I'm emotionally ready to open myself up to, or mentally.
Yeah.
But yeah, so our primary source of revenue is definitely the overnight accommodations. But from the beginning, like I said, we hosted a Christmas open house in December of 2021 that was ticketed. Generating other sources of revenue is important for sustainability in a business. And for old properties, historic properties, every penny counts when you're talking about the upkeep and the maintenance and the landscaping, utility bills. All of those things add up very quickly. And so the open house for me is like, I just want the space to be filled with laughter, with love. It's not meant to sit empty. It's not meant to be kept to myself. It's meant to be shared. The house was built in 1921. She's a looker, and she has always been filled. I mean, I hear stories from families that grew up in the space and kids that remember playing hide and seek and getting lost in the house and attending Christmas parties and garden parties. And it's meant to be filled in that way. And so from our very first Christmas open house, it was, okay, what else could we do here? We can have a bridal shower. We can have a baby shower. We can have a retirement party. And then someone knocked on the door and was like, hey, could I get married here? Okay, I hadn't really thought about a wedding. I mean, we are doing other types of events. The Elmwood hosts beautiful weddings. Other B&Bs that I've visited and traveled to, and I had some, good partners in mentorship from a B&B owner in New Bern. They host weddings. Sure. I mean, we can't fit a lot of people.
Yeah, like an intimate wedding.
We can do an intimate wedding. And so things have just, evolved from there.
Cool.
We've added merchandise. So, you can buy an Ell Hotel coffee mug. We've got a custom scented candle, T-shirts, koozies, anything for you to, a couple things for you to remember your stay by. Always looking to, evolve that as well.
Cool. So I guess looking back over the last couple of years, you've been open for 3 years now this past summer?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What's changed from day one?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think a lot, but I think the biggest thing is the staff, the support in that regard. I mean, in the beginning, it was me and my parents flipping rooms, turning over rooms, doing all of the laundry. I've learned so much about how to iron properly from my bonus mom, but it was us. That's what it was. And then had a part-time cleaner who was turning over rooms for a while, outsourced some linens, things like that, trying to figure out what that could look like and should look like. And now I have a hospitality manager. We have assistant cleaners. I have been able to free up more of my time to focus on the business versus being in the business. Outside of one, family emergency that was unavoidable, I haven't had to clean a room since 2023, and that is success to me. And so I think, that would be like the biggest thing is having really good staff that are part of my team. They are they believe in my brand as much as I do. And I would say to some extent, I almost think they might be more protective of it. But they're part of my family now. They're the Ell Hotel family. And I'm really grateful for them.
Yeah. What do you think you've done as like a leader and, even kind of pulling back to like your experience as a leader in the Army? How has that impacted how you lead your business?
I think a lot of it is that team. We're a team. And making sure that culture of the workplace is protected. I had once heard, hire slowly, fire fast. And I'm grateful that that's not something I've had to do. But I am very protective of what that environment looks like at work, and that I want my team to feel excited about being at the hotel. I don't want them to dread it. I don't want them to, I got to go to work. Like, I want them to feel like they're a stakeholder in what that looks like. And that also includes making decisions. If you tell me that something needs to be done differently, let's do it differently. You're the person that's in the day-to-day operation. Yes, have I cleaned rooms before? Yeah, I know how long it should take you. Hopefully by now you're doing it 10 times better than I ever did. Right. But at least for me, it was important that I had done every job in that space that I would ever ask someone else to do. Yep. And if they need me to step in, I can step in and do that. I might have to ask them where they've reorganized and arranged things, but they have ownership in that. That space is for them. Like, if you're the hospitality manager, if you're housekeeping, like, it's not for me to tell you how to organize your cabinet. I'm happy to provide suggestions. I'm happy to improve systems alongside of you. But I think that there's an element of needing to have ownership in those roles that they can feel empowered. And I hope that that's how they all feel because I really value them, and I would never want them to feel that they're not valued in the work that they're doing. Yeah.
So at the hotel, so you've got a hospitality manager and then the cleaning staff who like helps turn over the rooms. What does your role look like on a day-to-day basis?
My role is way more hands-on than I'd like it to be. And that's something where being a young business owner with no prior experience is something I'm learning as I go. So my day-to-day role is I'm your primary guest management is really where that role falls to me. The hospitality manager is overseeing a lot of the operations type thing, but I'm not fully transitioned there yet. So right now it's, if guests need email correspondence, they need invoices, if somebody's calling to make a new reservation, check-in details, a lot of that is all being overseen primarily by me. My hospitality manager, that's something we've really been working on this year is it's more of that letting go, right? Is really what it comes down to is trusting someone else to be able to do it successfully. They don't have to necessarily do it the way that I do it. They just need to be able to do it successfully. And honestly, they'll probably do it better than me. Yeah. But just really trying to figure out what that looks like. So for me, a lot of the day-to-day is just trying to be present, be at the space, be at the hotel, be available to the staff, and constantly looking to, how do we improve something? And with an old house, how do we repair something? I mean, Monday evening was leaving the hotel and the front door handle literally came off in my hand. So what does Tuesday morning look like now? Because we have guests checking in and
we need to open the door.
We need to open the door. So how do I manage? Okay, well, I got to call the handyman, make sure he's here, get the door open, make sure those invoices are paid, the repair, make those decisions. It's a lot more hands-on than I think even I anticipated, but I love it and I have so enjoyed it.
And I have a few questions that I ask everyone at the end. The first one is, what's one small thing that you've done in your business that you think has made a really big difference?
The Turno app, which I know means absolutely nothing if you're not in the hospitality industry, but as someone who values advice and podcasts and being able to understand, the Turno app changed my life because I can manage the cleaning schedule for my staff across multiple properties. And so, yes, I have the B&B, but I also have 4 Airbnb apartments. I have an Airbnb house. The scale of what has taken place in my time in Washington, I'm used to manage properties for other people. So being able to consolidate everybody's schedule in one place, one centralized location, that's also automated and connected to Airbnb has been a game changer.
If I ever get into Airbnbs, I'll definitely check it out. And what's one piece of technology that you think is like game changing for you?
Oh, game changing, I don't know, but I can't go anywhere without my phone. And I think framing, the mental framing around technology has been very helpful because when I was in the military, when I had a government job, having a work phone felt like a leash. It was access to me after hours when I was supposed to be off of work.
Right.
Versus now, having a phone, having technology is what has created freedom for me. Being able to work remote is what enabled me to become a business owner and balance both worlds. But then also now as a business owner, it enables me that I can take a guest call from my phone. I can monitor our smoke alarms and our carbon monoxide alarms. I can monitor our security. I can do everything from my phone.
Right.
And so I just think, having the ability to maximize technology in order to monitor your systems and stay in communication has created more freedom.
What is one hobby or passion that recharges your batteries?
Gardening, which Ellen 1 year ago would have laughed because I don't do yard work. I hate yard work. My mom would pay me extra to iron clothes because I didn't want to be in the yard. And I was more miserable than helpful. But a girlfriend in my Bible study class, she has introduced me to gardening, and it has just been such a joy because it does allow me the space to disconnect from that technology, where I can just be out in the garden, in the silence, appreciating nature, the bees, the butterflies, and allow those. I think that disconnectedness is what allows me to personally get those creative juices flowing, think about those ideas, and just have that space. So gardening has been such a gift this year for sure.
And I think I know where I would stay in Little Washington, but if someone was coming to visit, where would you take them?
Goose Creek State Park. I think it is the most it's an underrated, probably underutilized, but the Goose Creek State Park there in Washington, my husband and I love to go out there, and we love to take the dog and walk the trails, go kayaking, enjoy the beach area. And I just think it's a beautiful, unexpected part of Washington.
We took our engagement pictures there.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
And then we took some family photos too. So it's like we keep going back for different little milestones and stuff. It's really cool.
I love that.
And then if people wanted to find you on social media, or if they wanted to find out more about the hotel, how can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So first I would say for information about the hotel or to book your reservation, you can find us at www.theell hotel.com. We're also on Instagram, the Ell Hotel, and on Facebook, the Ell Hotel. And if you'd like to connect with me personally, I think LinkedIn is definitely the best place to do that. Ellen Brabo. Would love to connect and meet new people.
I think you might be running for something.
I am. I'm running for mayor of Washington, North Carolina. Yes.
Okay.
So get out and vote.
And if people want to learn more about that, how would they?
If you want to learn more about the campaign, you can certainly visit ellenbrabo.com or Ellen Brabo for mayor on Facebook.
Very cool. Well, I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
It's encouraging to see people like you who want to come in and make communities better. And like I said earlier, it seems to be this kind of unifying theme that you don't just see problems, you want to find solutions. And I think that's a really cool thing, not only as a business owner, but in the other areas of your community too.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me today.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for tuning in to the Shop Talk with Radiate Prints podcast. I'll see you next week.